Y'all ready to be history?
Get started.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
To the Pro Audio Suite.
These guys are professional. They're motivated.
Thanks to TriBooth, the best vocal booth for home or on-the-road voice recording. Introducing Robert Marshall from Source Elements and Someone Audio Post, Chicago. Darren Robbo Robertson from Voodoo Radio Imaging, Sydney. Tech to the VO stars, George the Tech Whittam from LA. And me, Andrew Peters, voiceover talent and home studio guy.
Line up, ladies!
Here we go.
Welcome to another Pro Audio Suite. Don't forget, if you would like to get a discount, we have a special offer on TriBooths, courtesy of Rick. If you'd like to get a bit of a discount on your TriBooth, and when I say a bit, $200, just use the code when you're buying your TriBooth, PAP 200. That's Papa, Alpha, Papa 200. Have to think about that.
I thought you were going to say, Papa, don't preach. I thought you were getting all Madonna on us.
Tell you what, it could happen. It could happen. Like a verger.
Hey, just quickly, while we're giggling, I have to tell you, I've had some funny feedback about last week's show, about your little comment about if you're in the brown, you shat yourself. Yes. There's been some comments on the Facebook page that just made me chuckle. Very good.
What was the comment? If you were what?
Well, we were talking about levels or something, and Andrew, and we were talking about, if you what was George saying? If you're in the yellow, you're a little mellow. If you're in the green, you're something or other else. And AP piped up with, and if you're in the brown, you've shat yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
They should have brown on a VU or on a picnic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Red, just go brown.
If you go, if you go past the red, it sounds like shit. So maybe you should go red then brown.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there is the brown tone. You're familiar with this thing, right?
The what? The brown tone?
Yeah, there is a brown tone.
The brown tone. You don't know what the brown tone?
You mean as in like a white noise? Is that what it is? And what?
No, I forget when. Somewhere
It's
between after
bass.
World War. Yeah, like after World War I and probably before 1970, when they were trying all these crazy weapons, the U.S. military decided that they would make a sound cannon that would be so loud and so low that it would oscillate people's body at their resonant frequency. And make them sick and shit themselves. Like they were going to use it for crowd control. That would make the crowd even more like.
Wow.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and who's going to clean that mess up? Not me.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what.
All the people who get sentenced to community service after they did whatever they did.
You have a question, Robbo.
Well, I don't, but John Davenport does.
Good.
He says, love the podcast and listen every week. Thank you, John. A while back, you guys did a show on mic interfaces and all the different ones. Nowadays, some mixers come with a USB port on top of the mixer. I have a chance to get an Allen and Heath mixer for free from a broadcast facility that's moving out and not using any of their existing equipment. I wonder if the audio output would be better or worse from a mixer than, say, a USB mic interface like a Focusrite or Motu M2. Love to hear your feedback. Thanks, John. I'm no expert on this, but USB would be USB, would it not?
Pretty much. It's not going to have any. I mean, usually the mixers have a generic driver, and many audio interfaces have a generic driver. That's not a big deal. So the chip that's in the mixer that allows it to do USB is probably very similar, if not the same, literally the exact same chip that you might find in a Focusrite, because all these manufacturers are often buying the same components, essentially. One thing to look out for in the mixer is exactly what's its purpose for the USB. So some mixers might have a USB slot on the top, and it might actually be I'm going to get my USB port names wrong, but a USB-A, I think. And that's the wide rectangular one. And if it's that, it might very well be that the microphone or the USB port is more intended or is literally designed as a recording device. So you can just record what's coming out of the mixer, a stereo mix typically,
right.
Or sometimes these, like Tascam has one that does multi-track, I think. But it's a capture device. And then very often the same mixer may or may not have a port. It's probably going to be a USB-B, but the sort of trapezoidal one, or maybe these days it's a USB-C port. And that would be the port that would be used to go to the computer, and it would make it more of an audio interface. And then at that point, you're really just kind of comparing the build quality of the mixer. Suffice to say that there's a lot more components, and I'm going to assume it costs more to manufacture a mixer than a audio interface, just because there's just more knobs on a mixer.
Well, and especially faders and stuff, yeah.
Right, exactly. More components to put together. So chances are you're still probably looking at a single chip, almost invariably a single chip mic preamp, which is probably going to be the same preamp that you have in a lot of these audio interfaces, unless it's something on the order of an Apollo, which is they're really focusing on the mic preamp. The one thing I'd say about the mixer is that you'll probably get a power supply with it, an external power supply, which might help the preamp sound maybe a little bit better than some other preamp that's only being powered by USB from the computer. So that might make a slight difference.
How does that work? What difference does that make?
Just the consistency and the amount of power and any noise, that it's more likely that if there's between the preamp and the computer, like sometimes there's a lot of high frequency stuff going on inside the computer, and if any of that bleeds into the power supply and the power signal going to the preamp, it could find its way into the audio path, possibly. So typically things with external power supplies are thought to have more consistent, better power, whatever. And I bet all these mixers have external power supplies, even if they're wall warts.
Yeah.
But still, I don't think that makes it so that any $100 Behringer mixer has a better preamp than some other audio interface, even if it's the same cost. They're probably using the same preamp chip, essentially. So probably barely a difference sonically. But if you like the mixer, you like the aux sends, you like the EQ, you like the ability, if it has an external recorder, just to record something without even having to use your computer, there's certainly reasons why a mixer can make a perfectly fine audio interface.
Actually, here's a technical question, which I'm sure you'll be able to answer for us, Robert. Based on using the same chip for audio interfaces, based on that, the SSL2 has that 4K button and all that kind of thing, and it does have a different sonic signature than other ones. So how do they change that sonic signature if they're all using the same chip?
Well, I would hope SSL is probably hopefully doing something slightly different, or how much that 4K button really is the 4K from an SSL that back in its day was $250,000, even though you had a whole lot of channels. I question how much of that original preamp is truly inside the SSL2. But it's probably a preamp that's been well thought out and considered, because that is one of the things that SSL is a little bit more known for. So they shouldn't just be chucking any chip at it and calling it a day. But I really don't know. They could have just analyzed a little bit of what it is about that 4K sound and emulated it, or put in that one approach that might have gotten it closer there. But I don't think I would buy that is the 4K, the SSL 4000, whatever. There's a 4000G, for example, or whatever 4K they're saying it is. Yeah, it's clearly not that actual preamp. But that said, the SSLs, I do not believe had, even in their big expensive boards from the 80s, those were not discrete preamps. Those were chip-based.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, I'm very sure that SSL, there's chips all over that SSL, and I don't think it's entirely a discrete board, and I'm not sure the preamp section itself was discrete, but I think there's a good chance that it was a little bit more an AMIC of its day, certainly better than an AMIC of its day. It's an SSL, but it was, Neotex at that time, and many boards at that time were starting to use chips for their preamps, pre-built chips. You go back to the 70s and the early 80s, and that's where all the boards were more all using, discrete preamps. But even that, I think MCI, MCI boards were some of the first boards to start using chips a lot and things like that. So, I don't think the SSLs were, Google might tell us. Let's see here.
Ask Google when in doubt.
Ask Mr. Google.
Knows?
It's funny, because if it wasn't for Hugh Padgham, I don't know whether SSL would have been as big as they ended up being. Because it all began with him working, and it wasn't the Manor, but it was another studio up in Oxford. And they were looking to put in new desks. and he knew about this company called SSL Solid State Logic, and he said, look, there's a company making desks here and they're local, so why don't we go and have a look? So they went around and had a look at the desks, obviously liked them, bought them, put them in the studio, started using them, and then that fateful day doing the Peter Gabriel record with Phil Collins playing drums when he opened up the talkback mic, and this huge sound came through the talkback mic, and with a bit of soldering iron, they managed to overnight make the talkback mic go into a channel, and in came that Phil Collins signature drum sound.
Right, which is the giant compressor on the talkback channel, which is what does it. Yep.
Yeah. So Hugh Padgham should be getting royalties from SSL, I would have thought.
Well, maybe Peter Gabriel can give him some of his royalties. Doesn't Peter Gabriel own SSL?
Yeah. I think Hugh did quite well. Yes, he did okay.
I'll trade you royalties. I'm not finding a definitive thing here, but there's certainly a discussion group. I think this is Gear Sluts here. And someone says basically a discrete channels. So one person says in 2013, SSL does an outstanding job with IC op amps. It's worth mentioning that the IC op amps are the same discrete op amps as the 2520s. I don't know for sure, but I think that the SSL preamps were not necessarily completely discrete and made out of a billion transistors.
Yeah.
But
well,
someone please correct me.
Just for anyone that hasn't heard the 4K button, this is what it sounds like when you press that 4K button.
Oh, so sexy when you do that.
You do. It's quite in your face.
It's a little bit more forward, isn't it? A little brighter,
yeah,
a little bit
really
more forward.
Is.
Well, you can hear it come forward.
Yeah. And then it's like, I'm just back to normal again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's certainly, here we go again, we're on. That's the 4K for you.
Yeah. It's much more in your face.
So they definitely found its thing, because I'm pretty sure, I don't know. I mean, like, you want to open up your SSL2 and see if there's a lot of separate transistors, or is it
no, I don't.
Just grab a screwdriver, will you, AP?
Yeah, that's right.
It's for a good cause, mate.
Power it on when you do
that. For the show. Come on.
Drill out a few rivets.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
So hopefully we answered the question.
What question? Oh, that's right. There was one, wasn't there? Yeah.
Right. The question was, does SSL use a chip, or is it completely discrete in their old boards?
Allen and Heath mixer with a USB. I don't think you could go wrong for free regardless, could you? Surely.
No.
Not at all. In fact, I forget what model it is. I know George would know, but Allen Heath made a little desktop mixer about the size of a Mackie 1202, but it specifically had mix minus built into it. Very much a little broadcast mixer. Huh. Kind of a nice one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Allen Heath makes pretty solid stuff, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not like SSL, but they're certainly, I think, right there with Focusrite and the other ones, especially on that level of gear. Focusrite spreads a whole gamut, as we know.
Yeah.
But I'd say Allen and Heath actually kind of sits in the more middle ground of that. Like Focusrite, some of their really high-end gear might go a little bit beyond some Allen and Heath gear, but I don't think Allen and Heath delves all the way down into the Focusrite solo territory and things like that. So
no.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
Nice one.
As they would say in my old Latin class, QED, quod erat demonstrandum. The problem is solved.
I thought that was in Harry Potter.
No.
Oh.
It's Miss Dane, my Latin teacher.
Oh. My Latin teacher was a guy called Mr. Miles. He was a sadistic prick.
Funny having a Latin teacher with miles. Having said that, Romans did actually measure in miles.
Yeah.
So there you
Did
go.
they really?
He used to give me detention.
The Italians weren't.
Go on. Sorry.
No, they Romans had miles.
Did they? Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
Is that how England got the mile and everything?
I would say definitely when the Romans basically moved in.
Mm.
So is the foot like some Roman's foot, some emperor's foot?
Yeah, there are measurements that are based on the body, a human body.
Well, who used cubits? Wasn't Noah's instructions to build the ark in cubits? 40 cubits by 80 cubits? Something like that.
I thought that was Lego.
What is a cubit? I thought cubit was like cubert. And the
is.
cubits are the things that cubert would stand on, if anybody gets that.
No, cubit is a measurement.
Anyway, who cares, really?
There are so many lost measurements. Chains.
A chain.
A chain, yep.
A chain?
Yep. a chain.
Do you know how you get the knot in like, speed?
Yeah, it's to do with dragging
with
the
knots in
rope
it.
behind you with knots in it.
With knots in it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here you go. I asked Dr. Google. A cubit is equal to 18 inches or 457 millimeters. There you go.
There you go.
And it was used by, what does it say? The unit of linear measure used by many ancient and medieval peoples.
Mm-hmm.
Cubits. How many cubits?
Well, there you go.
Will I make my new studio desk?
Well, my great aunt's married name was Cubit.
Really? Was
Yeah.
she short? Like
She was
18 inches?
about 18 inches tall.
We've got to get out there. We could go on forever.
Exactly.
All right. Nice one.
Oh, I forgot about leagues. That's another measurement that we don't use anymore.
Oh, yeah. 20 leagues under the sea or whatever.
40,000 leagues.
40,000
20,000 leagues.
20,000. Yeah, whatever. There you go.
Yeah. Captain Nemo.
Well, that was fun. Is it over?
The Pro Audio Suite, with thanks to TriBooth. Recorded using Source Connect. Edited by Andrew Peters. And mixed by Voodoo Radio Imaging. With tech support from George the Tech Whittam. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and join in the conversation on our Facebook group. To leave a comment, suggest a topic, or just say g'day, drop us a note at our website, theproaudiosuite.com.